What is going on out there, peeps? So this video is going to cover a little bit of a lot of things. Talk about NESARA, GESARA. We're going to end the Fed. That's right. This guy's talking about how the Fed is going to end. We've spoken about this several times. We're going to listen to what he has to say about ending the Fed. Also, he's going to talk about gold as well as cryptos. I look forward to sharing this reaction video with you. Let's see how this works out. So before we get started, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button because it helps us get past the YouTube algorithm. And also, if you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate that. A quick disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor, an accountant, nor an attorney. The advice that I give is freely and of my own opinion. Hey folks, just a quick reminder that back in 2008 and 9, a lot of people lost all of their retirement savings in their 401ks and IRAs because they did not own gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. Gold and silver protects you from a market crash. So do yourself a favor, protect your retirement by purchasing gold and silver. You can go to moneymetals.com, reach out to them, and they will help you set yourself up to protect you and your family from having to start all over from scratch. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and they will send along with your order a free half ounce of silver. So folks, do yourself a favor, head on over to moneymetals.com and protect you and your family from a market crash, as well as inflation. So head on over there now. You can actually own physical gold and silver. Go to our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. And don't forget to use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y. If you spend more than $100, you will get a free half ounce of silver. For those of you looking for my address, there it is right here. And you guys know I have an alternative website where I post original content as well as other content that is banned from YouTube. It's $3 a month. All proceeds go to Finding Life's Purpose Foundation, and you have unlimited access. Be very careful of people out there trying to impersonate me. They're asking people to send them money. Don't fall for it. I will not ask you to go to WhatsApp, nor will I ask you to go to Telegram. And here's how you know if I'm the one responding to any of your comments. A person makes a comment. If I respond, you'll see a dark circle around my name. See that? From time to time, I will use material that is copywritten. Just so you know, I am exercising my fair use rights. All right, so let's get into this. There is a video that I'm going to show you by Kitco. I will leave the link for that down below in the description. We're going to listen to this interview and react to what the person is saying because it's important for you guys to hear. Before we do, let's take a look at the market. We saw Bitcoin get up to $66,909. That's an all-time high. It has since come down a little bit considering that's such a major jump. I'm not surprised that people are trying to cash in on their quick profits. We are looking at Ethereum, got up to 43.62. Both of these are new record highs. Our main ones we like to watch, Cardano, up to 218. XRP, moving slowly, but moving for those you want XRP or any other crypto. There are links for those down below. There's one that says buy cryptos here, and the other one says Kucoin. Kucoin is where you buy the XRP. Solana, up 11%. Polkadot up 7%. These are the ones we've been talking about. Even Dogecoin went up 4.3%. XLM's up 4.3%. Shiba's up 0.5% anyways. Veracity is up 3.1%. And NESARA just sitting there around $1.18. So let's get into this interview real quick because what this person says covers a lot of different bases. This is Kitco, and again, I will have the link for this. Let's do this reaction video. This was done on October 17th, so listen to what he says, because today's Bitcoin price is actually covered in what he's talking about on the 17th.
Future Blockchain Summit, and kicking off our conference is none other than Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist at InTheMoneyStocks.com. Gareth, I told you and the audience 2 weeks ago that the next time I see you would be in person here in Dubai, and here we are. Great to see you, man. Nice meeting you in person. First time.
Yeah, thanks for having me as your first interview today.
Oh, it's our honor. Yeah, it's our honor.
And it's weird not having some sort of screen between us.
I know, it feels weird. Usually I talk to a screen, but now I'm talking to the real guy, and I must say you're more handsome than you usually are on camera. But let's start with Bitcoin because we are at a crypto conference, and we're going to be talking about your outlook for Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency markets as a whole, and of course, monetary policy, you have a very interesting topic for us. You'll be making a presentation later on at this conference. Bitcoin, I'm just going to read your tweet from last night, okay? You said, lots of wild bulls continue to go nuts, but ultimately the 65K confirming is the level. That is the end-all, be-all level per past cycles. Be careful, as this hype is based on the Bitcoin futures ETF debuting. So far, 65K not taken out. Let's watch the price action into next week. So
next week, he's right. So if this was done on the 17th, and today is what? Today's the 20th? It has breached the 65,000. As a matter of fact, it almost made it to 67,000.
Bit of background info for the folks watching right now. You have come on the show before. You've called for 20K Bitcoin. You have said that until Bitcoin confirms its past all-time high of 65, 66K, we could still reach lower levels, 20K, for example.
Again, we know that the futures is predicting Bitcoin, or selling the contracts at Bitcoin being around 22 to 24,000, I think is what he was banking on, and he is going to talk about that. But what does it mean now that it's broken that level that he's talking about?
It's hitting resistance at 60K, not yet at 65. What's happening right now?
So right now you do have this ETF like craze, right? So we have the futures ETF that's going to debut. I think it's on Tuesday this coming week, and that's creating so much hype in the retail sector that it has driven Bitcoin tremendously higher. My fear is that you're starting to set up some sort of, sell the news event. In fact, when we saw the futures initially debut on Bitcoin, that actually was a sell the news event. And I do wonder if the institutions and the big money is kind of setting up the investor for this downdraft. And if you look at past cycles in Bitcoin, and this is what the big disagreement is the cycle we're in, has the top been at 65K, or is this just a stepping stone to a much higher cycle top? We don't know that as a technical trader until.
What do you guys think? Is a 65 a setup for a downdraft, or is it set up for a much higher value of cryptocurrencies? Keep in mind where the futures are.
Till we take out 65,000. So that's really what I'm watching, and we are close now. I mean, we probably will know in the next week. It's interesting, it's going to coincide with the Bitcoin ETF.
I do want to follow up on the technicals in just a minute, but let's talk about this ETF and this hype. I don't understand this hype. Help me out. Okay, but let's walk through the practicality of this hype. So if you're a 60-year-old, 65-year-old retiree, and you haven't invested in Bitcoin already, you're saying this ETF is going to make the entire difference? That's the tipping point for people who are skeptical about buying Bitcoin? Does that really make sense to you?
It doesn't make sense to me, but that is what the narrative is. And you have to be careful with narratives. And I want people to understand this. When you had all the kind of the Reddit crowd, the Wall Street Bets crowd, initially that was based off the small investor.
There's something about his comment that doesn't seem right. And let me tell you why. Most of the people I talk to that are invested into cryptocurrencies, and it could just be because I'm with the older crowd, but these people are in their late 40s, going up as high as their mid 60s. They are all invested into cryptocurrencies in a big way. It's not like the elderly crowd, or let me reword it, or it's not like the more mature crowd. That's the best way to put it. The more mature crowd is not savvy about cryptocurrencies. As a matter of fact, I'm finding out that the people who are older are actually a lot more savvier about what to do with cryptos, like the alternative ways to invest the money. Get what he's saying, but I don't agree with it. Like, they're staying away from cryptocurrencies because they don't know any better. I think a lot of them actually do.
I do worry that the institutions and hedge funds have gotten involved and have spun narratives to try to.
Yes, thank you. I have been saying the same thing. Crypto people were all happy. It started getting mass adoption. But as soon as these hedge fund people started coming in, I knew it's gonna be disastrous.
Get the price to go up, and I do worry that that's what happened. That's what has happened here over the last 3 weeks or so. That the institutions are hyping this as a change. They're getting on these boards under super secret screen names, and they're pumping this type of thing. Overall, you're losing a percentage every time you roll over. Eventually, that investor is going to lose. It's just going to drive Bitcoin down, even if Bitcoin doesn't necessarily go down.
Woo! You heard that. Welcome to the world that gold and silver has been living in forever. But the difference is this. We physically hold our gold and silver. So whenever we're doing any kind of trading, transacting, or anything like that, we don't have to pay fees for it. We just hold on to it. But having hedge funds in there, ETFs, futures contracts, woo, yeah. they're going to manipulate the bejeebus out of those contracts.
The Bitcoin ETF, you wouldn't buy that. Would you buy the underlying? I almost called it a commodity.
Yeah.
The currency, whatever you want to call it. Would you buy Bitcoin right now, $60,000? Would you touch it at current levels?
No, and in fact, I've actually thought about shorting it up here. I haven't been short, even though I'm calling for 20,000 because I've been very nervous about Bitcoin.
20,000, but he said if it breaks the $65,000 level, that might be different. Let's see what he says.
But I actually would consider testing a short out right underneath 65,000 or near 65,000, and then if price confirms above, I would just exit for a small loss. But the downside risk here is actually pretty impressive for me in terms of technicals as well as momentum and hype.
I'm going to go back to your previous tweet. So right now we're barely breaching 60,000. We're struggling to breach that level. But you made the case for 65,000. That's the key level for you. Yeah. Once it hits 65, would you change your mind? Would you say, okay, this is the critical support or resistance level rather that has already been breached. Now it looks like bullish momentum is here. I should start getting long. Would you make that argument?
So the way a trader would trade this is if it breaches 65,000, it no longer can be compared to past cycles, and you have to assume there is further upside. As a trader, I would never chase something that's gone straight from 40 to 65,000. What I would do though is then instead of waiting for it to go to 18 to 20, I would buy on pullbacks at that point. So let's say it breaches 65 and confirms. Let's say it pulls back to 50 or 40, then I buy instead of waiting for 18 to 20.
So you can expect a pullback. That normally happens. So it has passed 65. Is it going to drop back down to 50, or is it going to go down to between 22 and 24?
Absolutely.
I'm impressed by how disciplined you are. I mean, 60 to 65K is not that big of a difference. One might just say, well, why don't you just carry that assumption over to current levels?
Well, so the 65,000 level is really the big kahuna, right? I mean, that's the previous cycle. That's the cycle high from April. That's what means in a technical trading perspective. That's everything. If it can't breach that, then you still have lower highs in the chart.
Okay. All right. Let's talk.
Before we get to the next level, which is getting ready to talk about ending the Fed, it is at 65. As a matter of fact, it went above that. It went almost all the way to 67,000. So 67,000 is pretty good, but it has since pulled back. We're now at $65,900. Is it going to continue to go down, or is it going to continue to go up? We will see.
Let's move on to your presentation at this conference that you'll be making later in the day. The theme is the demise of the Federal Reserve.
Here we go. Let's listen to what he has to say about the Federal Reserve ending.
Pretty strong words. What do you mean by that?
It is. It's something that the media hasn't caught on to yet, but it is the chain reaction of what is going on right now will lead to this. And basically, I'll be talking about how, the debt that the government is taking on, coupled with the Federal Reserve's balance sheet that keeps ballooning, coupled with interest rates that they just want to keep lower, will eventually create a situation, a collapse in the system, where you will no longer see the Fed in its current form. It'll be kind of abolished, if you will. And that's going to happen strictly because the people will demand it. And they're going to go over it. It relates to cryptocurrency because eventually you're going to see a switch over to this kind of blockchain, crypto, digital currencies that will eventually be the future.
Okay, so you've outlined your thesis. Walk us through the mechanics of how this abolishment, this transition will happen, and what new form the Federal Reserve can take.
Yeah, so the chain of events started actually in 1977 with the dual mandate. So as soon as the Fed got put in the position of having to monitor unemployment plus inflation, that was the beginning of the end for the Federal Reserve. The reason it was is because basically if you want to keep unemployment low at all times, which is what the Fed wants to do, you have to constantly stimulate the economy, right? By printing money and keeping interest rates low. Well, you can't be the parent that spoils the child and then also be the one that's hard-nosed and says, well, we're going to raise interest rates because inflation's getting out of control. You can't do that. And that was the beginning of the chain reaction that I'll talk about in the presentation. After the collapse, you'll see a new body come up that'll be in charge of the digital currency, whatever it may be, and eventually you'll see this digital currency probably being used all over the world, even as the reserve currency.
A digital currency as a reserve currency? Huh.
During a recessionary period, the dual mandates seem to contradict each other. If the Federal Reserve wants to lower the unemployment rate, they have to keep monetary policy dovish, which in itself is inflationary. So if you've already got inflation above their 2% target, which is currently what's happening right now, they can't keep stimulating the economy to bring unemployment down because they're going to be counteracting their own inflationary mandate. What options do they have now?
Oh man, I mean, taking away the dual mandate. I mean, but I think the bottom line is you'll see something emerge that'll be a body that monitors the digital currency, but it'll be strict in terms of its expansion, right? And I also think that the people will demand that the government eventually has a balanced budget, and that
Yeah, they should, and they should have a long time ago. As a matter of fact, it's in our Constitution that the budget must be balanced at all times. So we already seen Warren Buffett invest $500 million in a crypto bank. Again, pay attention to what they're doing, not what they're saying.
can't just run endless debt up. And this crazy, monetary theory, as they call it, it's just this concept that the government is now run by, that you can just print unlimited amounts because there's no repercussions, and that is absolutely not the case. I mean, even someone who runs their own household can tell you that eventually that check is going to run out.
So to your point that the Federal Reserve is going to be abolished, I'm just making the argument that would be a difficult thing to do because there are certain powerful actors within the government who probably wouldn't want the Federal Reserve or any monetary body to just disappear, at least not in its current form.
Yes, but what I'm actually calling for is a total collapse of the monetary system, actually.
Wow. Yep.
So it's not, there will have to be a reset, and I do think that what we're going to go through as a country, as a world, is something that's going to equal, if not be worse than 1929 and the 30s of the Great Depression. It is going to be cataclysmic, but from its dust, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will rise and be the future of society.
Yeah, but every time they print money, it just takes away the value of the dollar. The fact that it's supposedly still as strong as it is, I don't believe that, by the way. But them trying to sell to us that, the US dollar is still strong. No. What they're doing is printing unlimited money, and they disperse it out to all their friends and their entities who turn around and buy up all the assets that they can before the crash. Then they own it when they come out on the other side to become even richer. So that's what we got to guard ourselves from, is allowing that to happen.
What does the Fed do? Pumps more money, more QE. Think about after 2009, the Fed came in with quantitative easing. You thought that was going to end after a few years. It didn't. And now we have COVID, and it's even more. And now the Fed's talking about it again. Watch, you'll see some sort of new crisis emerge, and the Fed will cut back on the QE a little bit and then re-up it as soon as the markets start to throw a hissy fit.
But why would that cause the monetary system to collapse?
Well, because eventually you have so many dollars out there that you're going to eventually have yields on the bonds spike higher regardless of the Fed, and you're going to have some sort of system that just is doomed to collapse. And
Take a look at what's going on over in China with Evergrande. But there's another company behind Evergrande that's getting ready to suffer the same thing. And the fact that China is on the verge of a financial collapse along with London and America right behind it, no, this event was planned. It was planned long ago.
Not a pretty situation.
So what is this collapsed monetary system going to look like in its final form?
I think the dollar is going to eventually collapse. I think a lot of the main currencies of the world will decline. I think inflation is going to not go down back to 2%. You're going to see inflation run hot for at least a decade going into this. And eventually you're going to have the people just rising up, not necessarily in a violent way, but just demanding some sort of change, that you can't just constantly print money, that you can't just run up debt endlessly, because eventually that just eats away at our own buying power. Japan or even Europe or other central banks, they're doing the same thing. They're taking their cues from the Federal Reserve and pumping equal amounts of money into their system. And so you're going to have this situation where actually cryptocurrency is a huge winner here longer term, as well as, in my opinion, gold and other commodities.
Woo, gold, cryptocurrency, silver.
The dust settles. We have this Mad Max scenario in the monetary system. What does Bitcoin look like? What does gold look like?
Gold is easily north of 5,000 at that point, and crypto, you'll see Bitcoin well north of 500,000. I don't have much in crypto because I'm looking more to short it right now, looking for the pullback. But once it pulls back, I am absolutely a big buyer for the long.
So this was a week ago, and he's already talking about shorting crypto. I like what he's saying about the end of the Federal Reserve. I think we spoke about that a long time ago. So cryptos and gold and silver causing the end of the Fed. Of course, we're going to demand different policies. But I don't think it's just enough for us to say, hey, you got to change the way you guys act. That's not enough. We want accountability. There's people out there that position themselves in Congress in order to screw over the rest of us, and we shouldn't tolerate it at all. The Fed will be abolished. I think so as well. And this video covered gold, cryptos, as well as ending the Fed. I agree with this. You guys let me know what you think down below. I think it's already in place. I think they position themselves purposely to end the Fed so we can get into this new monetary system. What we don't want to do is get into that, the central bank digital currency. We don't want that at all. You don't want them to have 100% control of all your money. That's a no-no. So you guys let me know what you think. Is the Fed about to end? We spoke about it for a long time, and I think it's way past due. It's time to get rid of the Fed and get back to the old way we used to do handling money. All right? Anyways, that's it. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later. I'm out.